allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. Got a full house tonight. That's always good to see. It is 5:30 on August 22nd, I believe, in my mind. So tonight is our budget hearing, revenue neutral rate hearing. Let's go ahead and dive right in. I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, a motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. I hope everybody was able to get one of the budget worksheet summaries at the door. If not, let us know. We can make some more copies if we need to. We do have several people signed up to speak. We'll start off with, the handwriting is tough, Ana Vieja maybe, or?
Here, but I was gonna wait for later, if I have to say something, that's okay?
Okay, that's fine.
I can say whatever, in general, let me just say.
Okay.
From here is okay?
Just come right up to the podium and say your name.
Okay. My name is Ana Veiga. This is my first time attending to one of these meetings. And I'm very interested in learning. That's one, how you decide this in this process of the budget. And I'm also very concerned how you got to consider people that are retired or on Social Security when you make these decisions.
Okay.
That's about it. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll just sort of talk about the budget process. Do you want me to, or?
Yeah, or if you want to have maybe Betty come up and talk about what steps, how do we craft the budget? What are the steps that go through to get to this spot?
Okay, sure.
Good evening, Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. Well, we have quite a process that we go through even before it gets to this step. It starts out by sending out forms to each of the departments. They work on their budget request, and they are to look at what they feel like they need to run their department in the best manner. A part of that process is also a strategic plan that they submit along with their budget request. And that is so that they are looking at their operations, trying to see, where the direction they feel like their department can go to best serve the taxpayers. Then they put together what they feel like is the request of what they would like for their budget. My department goes through, reviews those for any, type technical errors or that kind of thing, and works with them. Then I compile all of those budget requests, and each of you commissioners receive a budget packet. If you see here, right, that what Commissioner Rippon is looking at, that is what each of the commissioners receive. It has each department's budget request and all of the different forms that are associated with that. We have a form for personnel. We have a form for the benefits, for any new positions they'd like to add, all of those things. So that is what each commissioner gets. We then have budget hearings where each department comes to at a specific time, and those are all recorded and are out there on our website that the public can go back and watch any of those at any point in time. They present to the commission what their request is, how they came up with that, why they feel like those expenses are what they need for their department. Then the next step is that as a commission, you look at the different requests, and that column on the spreadsheet that shows commission adjustments, that is where you have gone through as a commission and talked about different requests and where you think you can, in this case, you only made cuts, but in case you felt like you needed to make an increase, you could do that there also. So, you know, we have the one column that's the 2023 budget requests, then the adjustments that you have already made, or preliminary adjustments that you've made to come up with this preliminary budget. And that's where we are tonight, that this is the opportunity for the public to see those. This spreadsheet is also on the website for the public to see, and then this is just the public's opportunity to talk about specific departments or talk about the budget as a whole, or what information they would like for you as the commissioners to hear. Then after this budget hearing, then you will make any changes to this preliminary budget that you as a commission see fit before we adopt it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a couple of sub-points. Betty, each department does make a presentation to the county commission for their budget.
Yes.
And those budget presentations are online, as well as the prior years, so that if somebody wanted to look back at what Larry Ma, as the treasurer, presented to the commission in 2019, or 2020, or 2021, or 2022, they could see each year online.
Yes.
And so from there, they could see what he asked for in each of those years. Okay. And I think that sometimes people may have questions, such as if I was to look at the ambulance is the same year after year, and that's because they're on a contract.
Yes.
And so where
Now-
where we've seen a lot of changes happen is because of increases to what?
Mostly, the biggest increase by far, and in most cases, pretty much the only increase are wage increases. We did a wage study this last year, and those have been implemented now, those increases, and the vast majority of these increases are all from wage increases.
Now, at the bottom, where it says estimated mill levy, the reason why it's estimated,
Yes. In the middle of the year, June, the appraiser sends to the county clerk an estimate of the assessed value. Then, that is what I have used here. I do not set the mill levy, nor does the commission. The county clerk sets the mill levy based on the budget that has been set or adopted, and then the assessed value. And the assessed value is the final assessed value at November 1. That is the number that she uses. So it cannot be determined till after November 1, so that's why it's estimated.
so the county appraiser, while he's appointed by us, he's independent from our control.
Yes, those assessed values and those appraisals do not go through you at all. That total goes directly to the county clerk for her to use.
So when Steve Bauman raised my property valuation by $20,000, and I had the ability to have a hearing on that, that's separate from what we do.
Oh, absolutely,
The
yes.
county commission
yes.
doesn't set that value,
No.
and
And he has standards he has to follow in setting those appraised values.
And once we do this, if we pass a budget, then the mill levy is calculated by the clerk,
Yes,
and then Larry Moss sends out the first half and second half notices to the public.
yes.
All right, thank you. I thought it was just maybe important that we talk about the process of how all of this works, because it can be complicated unless you do it a lot.
So, anything else that I missed?
Not that I can think of.
This process started in April.
It's a long process.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I might just note, Angela Lewis, who is the Director of Human Resources for Shawnee County, she's also present in the room. And if there's a lot of concerns about why are you giving all of your employees big raises, I'm sure she would be able to speak to why Shawnee County has a wage study, why Shawnee County, what we do to try to attract and keep our employees, and how difficult it has been over the last year to be able to keep the employees that we have, and how we're still struggling to fill quite a few positions, so.
And we try to do a wage study or a compensation study. It's done by an outside, completely independent source, and we try to do one every 5 years so that we can keep our salaries competitive, so that we do keep the workforce that we need.
Okay. Any other questions for Betty? All right, thank you very much.
And I hope that explained.
Okay, so the next person signed up to speak is Lynn Collier.
Hey, I actually didn't sign up to speak, but I'll go
Okay.
ahead. I mean,
They told me you did, so.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay, so it's Lynn Collier, and I live in Shawnee County, of course. Yeah, I was going over, I had some questions on the budget from last year and this year, and I realized we are here, it's a proposed budget. So I was comparing what was presented to us last year, and it looks like a lot of money moving around. The budget stayed what you said was going to be, the bottom line was the same. But a lot of this money, somebody got more, somebody got a little less, but it all moved around within the, seemed like the administrative services was where I caught a lot of discrepancies on what the budget was for last year, and then changes were made after this meeting. And one thing was interesting, that was one thing that was interesting, but also the lady who was just here said that we were here just to hear the budget, hear the proposals. And so I'm not sure why, if we don't have any input to it, we're just here to listen to why things were, but that's kind of the impression I got from just what she had said. So I have some questions too about the decrease in the sheriff's department. And I know it's it's 200,000. And we really, in the county, we still need the law enforcement. Crime rate has been going up all across the country. So not looking forward to what we might be in for later on. I don't even know what it was for. You know, I don't have a detailed budget where I could say, well, why would you need that, or why you cut that, or whatever. So you can't really make a determination on what you think is kind of over budget. So yeah, my concern, another point that was made earlier was that you have a lot of citizens who are retired, they're on a fixed income, Social Security, and raising a mill levy. Last year, we were here because of the property value and how much it was going up. And of course, the one thing they said was, you know, it's not a tax, your taxes didn't go up. Well, now that you've got the increase in a property value, now you're starting to raise the mill levy, which is an increase in property taxes. So all in all, I don't like.
Can I stop you for just a second?
Okay.
So actually, the proposed budget has the mill levy going down.
Oh, it does, okay.
Yeah, so there is a reduction in the mill levy.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Because
That's okay.
I'm not real good at reading all this stuff. So if the mill levy's going down, I still don't understand. I think there's a lot of places that probably could cut their budgets just from simple things, and I can't go to every you can't watch everything on the internet, so you don't really have a good idea. And the mill levy is just approximate, so from what she said, it could go up. I mean, you don't, or is it set?
Well, it's not set yet.
No.
It won't be set till November, but
Right.
our goal, I believe, I can't speak for both of you, but I think our goal is to lower the mill levy this year.
Okay, that's a good thing, yeah. So, so the budget then is, it's not written in stone, as you've said. It could go, there could be changes made, and like I said, the shuffling of funds around from last year, it makes me wonder if they didn't because some of them went down, some of them didn't, went up. So if they didn't need so if you're looking at their budget and they really didn't need that much, then why was it in the budget? Do you see what I mean? So you really want to make sure that the budgets that they propose are accurate, I guess. And I don't know if I have any, that's probably all.
Okay,
I have.
well, so in that vein, you had mentioned the sheriff's department budget.
Yeah.
And the $200,000 that we had taken from his proposed budget, even after that, it's still $1 million increase from last year.
I know.
But the reason for that was, well, twofold. Number one is they haven't been able to get the vehicles that they ordered, and so their spending has
yes.
been less. But then also, their department has traditionally been under what we've allocated. And so rather than giving them money and then giving it back to us at the end of the year, we lowered it to try and make it more accurate, kind of as you described just a minute
Okay.
ago.
All right, all right. I think that's it for me.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
Great, yes.
I might,
Commissioner Cook.
Lynn, before you go,
Oh, yes.
when you ask, why are we here?
Yeah,
So, as Ms. Griner described, we received the budget packets beginning in May. We have budget hearings through the month of June and July. We have public hearings where we go back and forth to get to a preliminary budget. We will have our preliminary budget that we then publish to the public. The public, that's the purpose for tonight, is for the public to do just what you said. Why did you decrease the sheriff's request by $200,000? Now, on Thursday is the first opportunity for the county commission to, again, go back, make any changes that we want to make, and to potentially have a final budget that we would approve. Now, Ms. Beck works very hard, and so when we look at the estimated mill levy, she's working very diligently to come up to that number. And I would suspect that it's going to be pretty close, but it is an estimate. But this is the public's opportunity for it to say, I have concerns about why there's this or why there's that. It's not necessarily for a public debate, but it is the opportunity for the public to say, I think you should go back and relook at this thing. Or I have concerns about this project. And so much as you said, and the chair said, very good, that the sheriff has had $400,000 that he turned in. So we reduced his budget by $200,000, took that money, and you'll see under contingency, it went from 800, under administrative services, the second line, where it says contingency, it was increased from 800,000 to 1 million. So really the money shifted from the sheriff to contingency. Contingency is if something unexpected happens, we don't have to borrow to pay for it. And so if there is a unexpected event, a hailstorm that destroys buildings that's not covered by insurance, we have, or an emergency, computers that fail. That might be a better example than the hailstorm.
Pipe
But
bursts
pipe
at the
or
jail.
something
oh,
happens,
yeah.
a boiler stops boiling and we need hot water. Air conditioners that still quit working for no reason. This is our emergency rainy day fund. So we increased the rainy day fund, and the sheriff would have access to that as well.
Well, last year, it was mentioned that there was so many in reserve, an amount in reserve. It was more than this, I think.
And we have been keeping that same amount, and as we get to our amount, if we go over, we take that off to then use for the county's resources too.
Okay. And so does that, if you go over, does that mean because people didn't use all of their budget? I mean, where does that money, you say extra, if it goes over, is it income that you're getting from, I don't know, bonds or something? Is that what you?
It's your savings account. So
Okay.
think about it that way. So if you said, I want my savings account to be at $35, when it gets to $37, you'll take
that.
$2 off your savings account to be able to use
it.
for your household expenses.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Jennifer, did you want to speak to the administrative services piece to that, or, I mean?
Well, she mentioned that some of the things changed, and if you'll remember last year's budget, we had the wage increases went into effect July 1 of 2022. So what we did was we budgeted one big sum for implementation of that wage study for the 2022 budget. Then, as we finished that study and received the results of that, then we allocated those funds as to each department that was needed. So that's why the numbers changed. It was just, and that's why the total didn't change. We had allocated that total to implementing the wage study, but then we moved it into the separate departments as those results came back.
Okay,
Is
appreciate
that-
that. Yep, I believe that answers the question. Thank you. Okay, the next person signed up is actually two people. Don't have any last names, but I have Angela and Ashley, which I think might be out in the lobby. Okay. And if you could, just for the clerk, we do need to get last names also. So just,
Angela Lake. I'm with TBSA. I'm the president of Topeka Baseball and Softball Association, Dornwood, if you guys don't know. We joined Parks and Rec over six years ago. It was supposed to be a 5-year phase for a new park. We've only gotten 2 diamonds for the park. So we're just kind of wondering where that is at, because it's been 5 years of nothing, basically nothing done to our park that we was promised. It was a new concession stand, new bathrooms, a closed-in park for the kids to play at. Something, if you guys don't know about Dornwood, we do give scholarships for kids that are not able to pay to play softball and baseball. We had over 150 scholarships this year for kids to play during the summer. We also give softball seniors that are going to college a $500 scholarship for college. So the things that we do. We do community things too. We have a trick or trunk. We had an Easter egg hunt this year. We walk in the parades. We get our teams out there in the community to help. Our office at Dornwood, it floods. Every time it rains, we go in there, the floor will be flooded. Also, the concession stand at Dornwood, we have 3 choices. You get a hot dog, nachos, and they didn't even pop popcorn this year. They got bagged popcorn. And if you go to any of the other diamonds or baseball fields, they have lots of other choices for their parents and players to have. So we're here to just ask what is going on with Dornwood and hoping that we haven't been forgotten. Because we do a lot for the community and we do a lot for the inner city kids to have somewhere to play.
Any comments?
Well,
I know your kid plays at Dornwood, so.
Anthony, my son, has played at Dornwood for several years. We didn't this summer, but we are very much committed to, Shawnee County, committed to finishing Dornwood. One of the items, if you look on the budget, it will talk about new debt. And it is under the debt service, or sorry, bond debt service. And you'll see that it is $4,296,888. That is based on Shawnee County looking to take out $20 million worth of new debt. And that would be borrowed money. And that's what would be paid yearly on that interest and principal on that borrowed money. That borrowed money, $10 million, was discussed to go to the Shawnee County Department of Corrections to work on the facility. The facility is still an aged facility. Brian Cole is right there in the hallway hiding, but it needs a lot of repair and upkeep and things of that nature, but also $10 million to go towards Parks and Recreation. Looking at having that money go between Family Park at 21st and Urish, Oakland Community Center, the Oakland Pool, but then also Dornwood, and to finish Dornwood. But yes, there are 3 fields, office, restrooms, concession, graveling, parking lot, and park at Dornwood that are all part of that plan.
Yes. And if you didn't know, Dornwood's baseball has been out there for 80 years and softball's been out there for over 50 years. So we've been a long community out there.
Also, Commissioner Rippon, if you don't know, the lights that are at Dornwood, many of the lights are still the lights that were taken from the fairgrounds when they closed the fairgrounds at where the Stormont-Vale Event Center is in the 1980s. They took down the lights from the dirt track and they drug them out to Dornwood to put up for the baseball diamonds.
I did not know that. But I did produce a master plan for Dornwood Park, and I think it's a good plan yet. So I'm in favor of a project like that. I think it would be a good addition. It certainly needs an upgrade.
Yes. For our kids.
I'll also just mention real quick that the newly formed Topeka Area Sports Commission has been doing a study, and that's not a function of the county commission, it's an external entity, but they've been doing a study, and I believe the findings are going to be coming out sometime soon about sports facilities in Shawnee County, and what we have versus what we need and things like that as well. So it'll be interesting to see the findings of that and how Dornwood plays into that.
Also, I forgot, like the tournaments and stuff for the girls, when they have overflow, they go clear out to North Community Center. There's no reason why we are 5 minutes away. There's no reason why they can't just come and play at our field. And I think there's a reason they don't want to play at our field. Because we are 5 minutes away, instead of having people drive 30 minutes away.
That was part of the master plan, was to have those facilities close by so that we could have larger tournaments within playing at the lake and then playing also at Dornwood. Now, I might just add, for those that are here about the Dornwood or Parks and Recreation, we don't get to just, if we pass the budget, $10 million doesn't just appear. There first has to be a resolution, publication, a public hearing, then we would pass potentially an agreement to borrow the money, then they go out to the market to borrow the money, to sell the bonds, and then they come back. So realistically, it may not be till, even if we pass the budget this week or next week, it may not be until the beginning of the year that we would have that money to start the project. That would be an earliest that we would be looking at is the tail end of 2022, the beginning of 2023, before we would actually have that money to start funding those projects. So.
And also we do umpiring. Umpiring is really short in demand. we do get our young youth to start umpiring at Dornwood. All my daughters umpire at Dornwood, and there's nowhere a 14-year-old can make $30 an hour to umpire a game. And we have lots of our young youth that play out there that umpire the younger kids. So we give a kid a job during the summer, and they make lots of money.
That's great. Yeah, I know umpires and referees in all sports are tough to come by these days, so that's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just give, my name's Ashley Mason. I'm one of the executive board members of the Topeka Baseball and Softball Association. This is actually the second youth organization I've been a part of. I was a long time part of the Topeka Youth Hockey Program. Unfortunately, my son's 15 and he has moved up into the rankings, so he plays hockey elsewhere now. So I've kind of seen how some youth some youth programs, sports programs in general, can kind of, depending on the area, can kind of fall, not necessarily to the wayside, but it can kind of just seem like maybe delegations are done. And I think the big thing that TBSA wants in particular is maybe more like an answer of when. Like how soon could we be seeing some progress? I think that would mean the most, especially to these kids. My son has played out there for a couple of years, and so has my daughter. My son umpires out there, and he bought new skates because he was able to be out there and he loves it. He umpired, I think, for your son last year, and he loves the younger programs because he remembers being 8, 9, 10 and learning. And they have the ability to do that at Dornwood. They get more one-on-one. It seems it's competitive, but enough that they get those fundamentals. And I think that's the big thing that people within our association, we just want an answer of like, maybe when. Or, I mean, I know you're familiar with, have you guys been to Dornwood? Have you guys been out there at all and seen? Because we'd love to have you if you guys wanted to come and visit the park and kind of get a better idea of what we see, because we love it out there. It is so much fun. My kids have the best time out there, so that's all we're really looking for.
All right. Well, and at this point, I think the answer is we don't know. I mean, I wish I could give you a time specific, but at this point, we really just don't know.
As
So-
long as Dornwood is at the forefront of your guys' mind, as long as we keep hearing, talkings about it. I know I did a little bit of research before I came in and looked at some of the things that people were talking about back in like 2012, 2013. There was a group called Friends of Dornwood, and they actually, it wasn't just about like the sports facilities out there. They were talking about the park in general, and it was interesting. I don't know if that's a nonprofit that's still running. It might be worth us to try and find these people again and see what we can do to expound upon it, because
Isn't that what brought the splash park? Wasn't that
I think
from
they
that group?
were involved in that, but I don't know if they're still active. I just don't know.
I didn't see a whole lot. It didn't appear that there was much, but it would be, there's a lot. There's a huge area out there that would be beneficial to get kids, especially in that area of town, over to the splash park's always busy. Like that's continuously going during the summer. So it'd be nice to give kids availability for something else throughout then, like the fall and winter months. I know we have plans to do clinics and things like that, but we also want to continue to make it alluring for people to want to come to Dornwood. So,
I think the addition of the Deer Creek Trail will bring a lot more people into your park area.
for sure. And even if it's something as simple as making sure people are out there, I know we have groups that will come and clean up the park. They'll actually go and pick up trash and do different things to keep the park clean. But even if we did little things like that too, is making sure there's people continuously out there just to make it really nice and home, our home away from home as we do during the summer.
Great.
So,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley.
Appreciate it. The next person signed up to speak is Robert Williams.
Hello. I think many of my questions were already answered by some of the others. I just had a couple here, and maybe a request. What is the standard? Have you guys looked into the standard for what would be an acceptable amount to keep in an emergency fund for a municipality? Is there a threshold that would be considered hoarding taxpayer funds?
We've-
As
so
opposed
we've-
to being considered an emergency fund?
We've talked
Well-
about it at length. Betty, would you like to comment on that?
And may I
Yeah.
ask some more?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, we do have a fund balance policy at the county that designates how much that is. We have a goal, a minimum of 20% of our most recent budget, and then we have a goal of 25%. So we try to, and that is also an acceptable amount from bond rating services, so that they feel like we have a sufficient amount of reserves.
And Robert, she said fund, F-U-N-D, not fund balance. It's not fun.
Fund. Yes, yes. So our reserves are between 20 to 25% of our most recent budget.
Yeah.
And that's an established practice and not just up to the.
Right, it's in our
Great.
Yeah.
And-
county
and
code.
Betty?
Okay.
When you started with Shawnee County in 2013, do you remember what our Moody's bond rating was?
No, I don't. It was not as good as it is now. I
We
do
are-
not remember the number.
I believe that we were at just but we are, or
We are now at an AA1, which is very financially healthy for our size of a county.
are there any higher ratings we can get?
I don't think we could, I mean, there's higher ratings, but not for our size of a county. I think that's probably the highest that we would.
And then that bond rating is what determines what our interest will be at for when we borrow money.
Yes, because that's how they determine the risk for the investor that invests in us. So, you know, if you are you're going to get a better interest rate if you are not a high-risk, high-risk bond. Yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams?
Okay, thank you very much for that. Let's see, where's my other? Now, on these numbers, I got the mailer that you sent out for us, for the ad valorem tax. And I just want to make sure that I get this clarified. The total ad valorem revenue of for county, and 103, forgive me, not in my bifocals, 103,371,000 some change is what I've got for the proposed budget. Is that correct? Or does that vary from person to person? For the proposed budget, this is for the mailer that you sent out, which is different than the 127 million. And my question is that 127 million taken into account the amount of revenue generated from some of these departments? Is that the difference there on that versus the tax?
Absolutely, that is exactly it. That is the amount of money that we would need to levy. The smaller amount, is the amount that would need to be levied. We take the total amount of the budget, subtract the revenue that we get from all the other sources, and then that's the levy amount.
Man, thank you very much. And we're dialed in pretty good on the revenue that we can expect then from those different departments. Great, thanks. I think all the other questions I had have been answered, and I'll sit in case I get some more answered. But I had a couple of requests from the elected governing body here, and any within the sound of my voice, to make an appeal that we change the way we employ our appraisers in the state to the way it used to be, where we elected them back in the 80s up until then, to give the people a voice when you have appraisers out there that are, quite frankly, predatory in their approach to handling many homeowners and taxpayers out here. And also, I would like to ask that we maybe work towards a more robust homestead exemption where we're not taxing. We're getting to an age where a lot of our elderly people and retirees are gonna get taxed out of their homes with increased levies. And I understand the county, and I appreciate the county lowering their mill levies, but some people may forget to realize that there are other taxing authorities within the county. So when you add them all up, like from 2020 to 2021, we had an 8 mill levy increase, which back in the day, anything over 1, you know, the citizenry had a meltdown, and we demanded answers. Fists were being slammed out here. I don't understand the change in how we're doing that, but I would really like to see us move towards electing that appraiser and holding them accountable and to the people with whom they value their property. And then again, also limiting the amount that the taxing authority can charge the homeowner through homestead exemption. Look, other states have it where, for instance, they can only raise the amount they charge, they bill that person, that tax that person, no more than 3% a year. Because you get, like myself, 25% in 2 years, move down the line 10, 15 years, some of us that are getting up there in age, next thing you know, we can't make a mortgage payment. Then you add inflation on top of that, the dollar's not worth much, so now we have to value that house at even more than what it was because the dollar isn't worth as much. Before you know it, you blink your eyes, a guy that's 60 years old, he's now 75, he can't afford his house. So there's ways that we can do that, and I would love to spearhead something like that and get that ball rolling to where we can elect those appraisers and stop and let me tell you, I understand they run state by state law, they've got constraints, but there's a whole lot of latitude there, and I can show you on paper how subjective some of their decisions can be. So with that,
Mr. Williams, I might note there's a very beautiful building about 3 blocks from here with some people in it that they're the people that would be able to make those changes.
And I understand that. I'm just reaching out to the elected. That was totally for the elected officials who have a bigger voice than myself.
Yep, thank you.
So thanks. If you would agree with that.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So Mr. Williams is the last person we have signed up to speak. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir. Please just make sure you stay. Step up there to the microphone, please.
I have 2 detailed questions I'd like to ask, and then 1 comment in general. One, on this budget, I don't understand COP debt service and why it's jumped as it has, and if you see that as a trend going forward. And the second is under administrative services, we suddenly have a large capital outlay that showed up, and I don't have any idea what that's about.
Okay.
And then my comment is probably along the lines of what others have made, and that is, I appreciate the budget process, been through plenty of them myself, I understand the complexity behind them, but I think the bottom line stops with you guys in terms of how much we actually impose on people in terms of revenue that you need to get from them. Lowering the mill levy is fine, but when the assessed value goes up, the absolute dollar that a property owner has to pay goes up. And as a senior citizen balancing budgets with definitely limited income, I have choices I have to make. I have to give up things like maybe medicine, maybe Netflix, but I have to give things up because I don't have the revenue to pay for it. So I guess I would urge you to take a look at this and realize that you're imposing ultimately a dollar amount on people, and many of them in this county can't handle it. I do taxes for AARP, and I see a lot of those people and what they live on, and they barely hold on to their properties. And it's going to be a shame if some of these folks get turned out onto the streets or can't get medical care. We ultimately, as taxpayers, end up paying for this. So there may be some programs and some things we'd all like to have, and gee, it's neat, but maybe you guys have to bite the bullet and just say, we're cutting services, however unfortunate that is, simply due to the inflationary pressures that we're all facing at this point. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Would you like me to explain that?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, under debt service, we have bond debt service. Those are general obligation bonds. The second one, the COP, is a certificate of participation. That is a type of debt service instrument. It's still debt service, it's still the obligation of the county, it's just a little bit different type. And the reason it went up so significantly was because, I'm sorry, Commissioner
I
Cook,
pointed the wrong one.
but when you talked about the $20 million additional, that is actually, will be issued as a COP, and that's why that increased because
apologize.
of the $20 million. The second item was on the capital outlay. Normally, each year, we look at those capital improvement items that we need to have, what we will need to fund each year. Historically, that has been about $2 million. In 2021, we increased it to $2.5 million. And then in 2022, we actually used reserves to help that. So that's why the budgeted amount went down. And then this year, we're restoring it back to the $2 million.
And just to also add to that a little bit, if you notice also on there, the COP debt service went down $500,000 from 21 to 22, as well as the bonded debt service goes down about almost 700,000 from 22 to 23's budget request. And so we made the choice over the last couple of years to not issue any new debt. And so that's kind of where we're at now, is as things have rolled off, stuff that we were already paying on.
Do you see a trend going up?
No, in fact, we've got quite a bit more rolling off next year as well. So we have a schedule. So there's a pretty sizable amount rolling off next year, and then it kind of remains steady for a few years after that. So, yes, sir, please.
Alan Riveland, I'm the Minokan Township trustee, so I'm a little familiar with your budgets, but maybe not as much as some of you have been after it, only 10 years. And it's very confusing after 10 years. You guys don't do a budget like I do at home. You understand. But anyway, I'm looking over this, and it says you're dropping the mill levy to 5.22, but it's still going up $9 million. What it looks to me like. So I understand the mill levy's dropping, so what's your R&R, from last year? Does anybody know? 5 point what?
Alan, your question is, why did if your mill levy went down, but the amount of money you have went up, what happened?
I understand, you're still increasing it by 9 million, but I want to know what the R&R was last year.
Well, the proposed R&R is,
From last year?
well, it would be for now, I mean, they have,
Yes.
the R&R is for this right now,
Yeah.
is 46.302. The
It's
actual.
46.302?
46.302 is what the county's revenue neutral rate would be if everything was exactly the same, their request for budget, just like your budget, exactly to the penny the same, that's what it would be. But, as they've been explaining, that's not how it happened. There's a much larger budget increase.
So you're saying you gained money in 2022, so it increased that to 5.842? This is the part that most people don't understand, and is very confusing. So I want to try to make it as clear as possible, because we can sit here, all of us as the public, and we can get confused about what's going on here, but it still is an increase because you're having an R&R meeting based on the fact you're either going to vote no or you're going to vote yes, and I don't know where any of you stand, except for maybe Bill. But that's going to increase because you're having this meeting. Does everybody understand that that's the purpose of this meeting? I don't know if that was made clear to people, that the purpose of this R&R meeting is because you have the intent of raising the taxes. Is that a correct statement?
Not exactly. What it is the revenue neutral rate is the R&R, okay? The legislation was passed by the state of Kansas last year that basically requires us, and we've always had an evening budget hearing. I mean, this is something we've done for
But
a long
nobody
time.
shows up.
Yes.
They do?
We've
Yeah.
had,
Oh,
we've
yeah.
had meetings that have
Okay.
gone
We're
for
good.
Yeah,
more
people
than
show
an
up,
hour.
yeah.
We've had meetings
Yeah.
that have gone for more than 2 hours.
Yeah, people show up. But the legislature with this revenue neutral rate basically requires us to mail, print and mail, a letter to everyone in the county, which you all received, if you're a homeowner at least, that basically says if we don't increase spending at all, if it's exactly the same budget as last year, that's our revenue neutral rate. So I think we're not trying to trick anybody. I mean, I think we've been pretty forthright. Yes, we're spending more money than we spent last year.
Yeah. To be clear, I'm not saying you are.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I want to make sure that people understand the purpose of that R&R. And it was by the legislator, it was supposed to give back to the people, was its whole intent to give back to the people so that they have an opportunity to be aware of when the taxes are going to be raised. So, and it's been a headache for us as a township, and as you guys as commissioners, I'm sure.
yes.
And you guys don't realize it causes us more work in the long run, which, and the clerk, of course, and Lori, who we deal with
Yeah.
all the time.
Yes.
But anyway, just so that's clear, it is causing us more work, I get that. But I guess I just want to say, so what you're saying is if you left your R&R where it's at, it's 46.332 or whatever you said.
That's if we spent the exact same amount that we spent last year, that would be the rate, 46 point whatever.
302.302.
So it's basically going up 3.8
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is an increase, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? Amanda, can you check and see if there's anybody out there that's? Were there people in the break room?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, go check with them. I know they're on a little bit of a delay down there, so. Okay, it looks like that's it. So I would make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Mays and seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. So should we talk a little bit about what happens next? County Councilor.
This is Jim Kraus, Shawnee County Councilor. You have scheduled on your regular agenda for Thursday to continue discussions in this budget process, to continue discussing your preliminary budget numbers that you know where you arrived at. At some point, either Thursday or one of our regular meetings, you will decide that you've made all the final cuts you're gonna make. You will adopt the final budget, and you will adopt a resolution which would tell us at that point whether you intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate, and there will be a roll call vote as required by statute to do so.
Okay, and then, hopefully you have an answer for this, but what is the date that we have to have our budget passed by?
You have to have it passed by September 20th.
Okay, great.
October 2nd.
October 2nd.
You have to have it to me by October 2nd. So you got a long
You
time.
have to adopt it by September
yeah,
20th.
yeah.
You have to have the paperwork to the clerk by October 2nd.
Okay, and she'll let us know if we don't have it to her in time, I'm sure.
Sure, I have your number. I have no problem with that. Alan knows we will.
All right, well, I believe that's it for today. We do not typically take action at these meetings, so we are adjourned.